Imagine a man moving among us for nearly 50 years, leaving behind a trail of sorrow so vast it's almost unimaginable. He wasn't a shadowy figure from fiction, he was real. His name was Samuel Little. For decades he was a ghost, and so were his victims. Women on the fringes, their disappearances unnoticed, their deaths misclassified. Little understood invisibility, his own, and that of those he targeted. He claimed 93 lives, 93 stories, erased. Arrested over 100 times, he was a familiar face in booking rooms, yet his true darkness stayed hidden. The dots were never connected, the pattern never seen. He preyed on the vulnerable, women whose absence wouldn't spark frantic searches. He offered a fleeting illusion of safety, then snuffed out their lives. Years later, he sketched their faces from prison, the only testament to their existence. This is not just a true crime tale. It's a haunting reflection of who we value, and who we leave behind. We begin a journey into the heart of this darkness, to understand the man, the method, and the failures that let him become America's most prolific serial killer. To understand the monster, you have to look at the boy. Samuel Little, born in 1940, entered a world that had no place for him. Raised by his grandmother in Ohio, his childhood was marked by poverty and instability. He struggled in school, already obsessed with the female form, especially the neck. His early life was a cycle of institutions and petty crimes. By his teens, he was already on a path of violence. He learned to fight, to manipulate, to hide his true nature. As a young man, he drifted, working odd jobs but always returning to crime. He was a boxer, learning to use his hands with deadly precision. This wasn't a sudden descent, it was a slow, calculated journey. In and out of prison for assault and robbery, he was seen as a thug, not a killer. Overlooked and underestimated, he found freedom in society's blind spots. His life on the road and his choice of victims created the perfect storm of anonymity. For nearly 50 years, he built a secret body count. Samuel Little was a methodical hunter, blending into the margins of society. He didn't stalk or abduct in dramatic fashion. He frequented bars, soup kitchens, and street corners, places where the vulnerable gathered. He looked for women whose absence would go unnoticed. His approach was simple: a ride, a drink, a bit of conversation. He was disarmingly charming, making his victims feel seen, if only for a moment. Once in his car, the trap was sprung. He'd drive to a secluded spot, then the violence was swift. As a former boxer, he'd knock his victims unconscious, then strangle them. Strangulation left few marks, and in an era before advanced forensics, their deaths were often misclassified. He disposed of bodies in ditches and alleys, counting on the world to forget. By choosing marginalized victims and a method that mimicked other causes of death, he operated with near impunity. He was a ghost, creating an army of ghosts. His evil was mundane, hidden in plain sight, the perfect crime, repeated again and again. And for decades, no one saw the pattern. Behind every confession was a life, a story cut short. Mary Ann Palmer, a mother of two, vanished in Miami in 1984. Her body was found, her death undetermined, her family left searching for answers. Audrey Nelson, a mother in Los Angeles, disappeared in 1989. Her laughter silenced, her case cold for decades. Denise Christie Brothers, a transient in Texas, vanished in 1994. Only Little's later confession and sketch brought her story to light. These women and dozens more shared a common thread: vulnerability exploited by a predator. Brenda Alexander, Patricia Mount, and countless others were erased, their cases gathering dust. Little didn't just kill, he erased, counting on the world to forget. But they existed. They had names, faces, and lives that mattered. Their stories are a solemn reminder of the human cost of a killer's reign. Each victim was more than a statistic. They were loved and they were missed. Their families endured decades of silence, never knowing the truth. Only Little's confessions brought their stories back into the light. Their memory is a testament to the cost of being forgotten. For decades, the only evidence of Little's spree was silence. Dozens vanished, dozens of bodies found, but the connections were never made. Each case was an isolated tragedy scattered across America. The silence was systemic. His victims were marginalized, their cases deprioritized. Law enforcement, overwhelmed and underfunded, often wrote off their deaths. The lack of communication between agencies let Little cross state lines with impunity. Before centralized databases, information was siloed, patterns went unseen. His transient nature shielded him, always a local problem, never a national one. Forensic science lagged behind. Strangulation left few clues. Many deaths were misattributed to overdose or accident, closing cases before they began. Little wasn't just lucky. He benefited from a system not equipped to see him. The silence was his greatest accomplice. Samuel Little's story is about more than a killer. It's about the cracks he slipped through. He was a career criminal, arrested for assault, rape, and kidnapping, yet never connected to murder for decades. The system saw the trees, but missed the forest. In the early 1980s, he was tried for 2 murders, acquitted both times. These failures emboldened him, teaching him he could beat the system. DNA technology eventually became the key, but for years, evidence sat untested. Cold cases involving marginalized victims were left on the shelf. His criminal record flagged him as violent, but his mobility hid the pattern. Parole officers and police in different states never saw the whole picture. Each arrest was a missed opportunity to see the monster behind the mask. The system was built for local criminals, not a phantom who treated the country as his hunting ground. For decades, no one asked the right questions. And so, the killing continued. The end began with a single detective's persistence. In 2012, DNA from 3 1980s murders in Los Angeles pointed to Samuel Little, already in custody in Kentucky. He was extradited, convicted, and sentenced to life, but the full scope was still unknown. Texas Ranger James Holland saw a pattern others missed. He believed Little held the keys to dozens of secrets. Holland's approach was different. He built rapport, appealed to Little's ego, and listened. He brought food, asked about Little's life, and treated him with respect. It was a psychological chess match. The breakthrough came with maps and conversation. Little began to talk, confessing not to a few but to dozens of murders. He remembered faces, cities, and details with chilling clarity. The dam of silence broke, and a river of confession poured out. Holland had found the key. The truth began to emerge, piece by piece. The history of serial crime in America was about to be rewritten. What followed was one of the most chilling confession sprees in American crime. With Ranger Holland as his confessor, Little calmly detailed murders from coast to coast. He claimed 93 victims, dwarfing the numbers of other infamous killers. The FBI got involved, using Little's memory and sketches to identify victims. He drew portraits from memory, haunting, detailed, and heartbreakingly accurate. The FBI released these sketches, hoping to put names to faces. Cold case detectives across the country began matching confessions to old files. One by one, connections were made. Decades-old mysteries finally solved. Over 60 murders have been confidently corroborated, making Little the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. The confessions continued until his death in 2020. He took some secrets to the grave, but gave families long-awaited answers. The river of confession brought closure, but at a terrible cost. The story of Samuel Little is a chilling testament to the sum of all fears, invisibility, forgotten lives, and the failure of systems meant to protect us. Little wasn't a criminal mastermind. He was a patient predator who exploited society's blind spots. His story forces us to confront who we protect and who we leave behind. For families, his confessions brought painful closure. Finally, the torment of the unknown ended. Their loved ones could be mourned, their stories told with dignity. Little's legacy is a lesson for law enforcement and society. Every victim deserves justice. Every case deserves attention. His case proves why cold cases must never be forgotten, and why the myth of the less-than-ideal victim is so dangerous. Every life has value. The 93 women he claimed are a testament to the catastrophic cost of forgetting that truth. Samuel Little died in prison, his name etched in infamy. But the real story is about the women he stole. Their lives were not defined by their tragic ends, but by the love they left behind. Their memory is a haunting reminder of the darkness in the margins, and the enduring need for answers, justice, and remembrance.